Hello guys, welcome back again. Today I'm going to provide a guide, tips, and tricks for turrets. Turrets are one of the most essential buildings of all time because they are limitless, unlike units, which are capped at 250. Since turrets don't have a limit, we can build lots of them to conquer territory and capture important areas. They are the most necessary buildings for late-game battles. Without turrets, you can't fight effectively in the late game. They provide huge damage and are hard to destroy. We can combine them with repair bays and laser shield turrets. First, we are going to talk about which turrets are best against units and for the early game. Okay, so we'll start with the Flamethrower turret. This is an AoE turret, which means it deals area damage instead of attacking enemies one by one. This turret is useful against these units. Sometimes effective against heavy tanks as well. Turret T2. This turret is almost the same as the Flamethrower turret, but deals higher damage and attacks a single target. It is effective against almost the same units, except the heavy hover tank. Artillery turret. This is a long-range turret, and it takes some time to reload. It's very good against naval units, such as battleship, missile ship, attack submarine. Lightning turret. This turret shoots lightning and has a slow cooldown. This turret isn't very effective against most units except mech miniguns. It can also be bypassed by using large numbers of basic mechs, higher HP units, or tanks. Turret T3, the strongest ground turret in the game. This turret is almost the best turret in the game. It has effective range, high HP, self-repair, and rapid fire. For this turret, I'm sure you guys don't need a list of effective targets because this turret can perfectly defend against almost any ground attack. Artillery T2. This is the longest range turret in the game and deals huge AoE damage. It can fire two shots one after another, dealing massive damage. It is very good for defending against naval units such as heavy battleship. This turret is the only turret capable of effectively defending against heavy missile ships due to their high range. It is also effective against heavy tanks, heavy hover tanks, and most Tier 1 units because of its range, high damage, and AoE attacks. Lightning T2. This turret is mainly for units that have shields. It isn't very effective against unit spam, but it works against shielded hover tanks. However, it is not extremely effective because shielded hover tanks have high HP and deal high damage. Anti-air turret, Anti-air turret T2, and Anti-air turret T3 are all effective against every air unit. T3 is the strongest and longest range anti-air turret, so it doesn't need much explanation. Flak turret, a turret that is not used much by players and is often forgotten. This turret is mainly effective against light gunships and interceptors, but not much else. Because of that, I don't recommend this turret. You can keep one in each defense area if the enemy tries to destroy your laser shields quickly. Now you might be wondering why I didn't talk about the T1 turret. I didn't because you already know that this turret isn't very effective without upgrades. Yes, it can defend against some small Tier 1 units, but it's not very good, and you probably already know what it can be used for. So now that we have discussed the turrets, we will talk about how to effectively build them in the early game, mid-game, and late game. Early game. Since we start with low credits, we must use them efficiently, so we don't spend too much on turrets. The first thing to do in the early game is capture resource points and defend choke points. For example, on Crossing Large, it is essential to defend the middle point, the small island, the side routes, and the lava island. These are crucial locations that provide huge advantages during the mid and late game. In the early game, I recommend using more units for defense rather than building lots of turrets. Yes, you can build turrets around important paths, such as the middle bridge on Crossing Large, or defensive positions like the middle resource point on Valley Arena. However, because it's still early game, I recommend relying more on units. Why? Because units can move, while turrets are fixed in one location. Early on, you can't afford to cover your entire base with turrets, and even if you do, your turrets will be weak without upgrades. This wastes credits if enemy units simply push through them. So I don't recommend heavily investing in turrets early. You can still build them, but only for specific important areas. Mid-game. Now it's the mid-game, the stage where things start getting fun. By now you should have around 400 credits. This is the point where you can start upgrading your turrets and building stronger defensive positions. For example, around the side routes, near the lava island, or directly on the lava island itself, you should build turrets and anti-air turrets to defend these important locations. These are crucial points, and I recommend getting turret T3 there, along with artillery turrets, laser shields, and one or two repair bays. You can also start building defenses in places where enemies are likely to attack, such as the Valley Arena Middle Resource Point. I recommend placing repair bays and laser shields there to strengthen your defense. Late game. Late game is where turrets truly shine. At this stage, you can make your base nearly undefeatable by building turrets everywhere. You shouldn't leave any weak points. For example, on Crossing Large, don't forget the side areas because many players leave them undefended, creating weak spots. I recommend building defenses in the style shown here. It may not be the strongest layout possible, but it has very few weaknesses. I also don't recommend placing T3 turrets directly at the front line because enemies can bypass them using T2 artillery turrets. For naval defense, I recommend using artillery T2 instead of T3 turrets along with laser shields. For air defense around lava areas, I recommend using large numbers of T3 anti-air turrets supported by laser shields and repair bays. If you've watched this far into the video, here's a useful tip. Whenever you're building fabricators, always place two anti-air turrets beside them, like this example. This helps minimize damage from enemy air attacks. Now for the best late-game defense style, and one that can often make enemies quit the game because it's so difficult to destroy. The defensive line layout. Many players build one massive wall of defenses. This is bad because once one section falls, the enemy can easily penetrate the defense and attack your base. Instead, I recommend building defense lines. That means creating multiple layers of defenses. For example, use a layout like this: Line 1, Line 2, Line 3. This style of defense is much harder to destroy because if the first line falls, the second line can continue defending while giving your units time to be produced and counterattack. You can build your air factory between the lines. This is one of the best late-game defense strategies because layered defense lines provide much greater survivability. So that's where my turret guide ends. Like and subscribe if you found this guide helpful.